Hello freaks, it's JJ, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I talk about rock and metal music, and I cover the stories behind some of my favorite concept albums. I'm also an author as well, and I just recently published the novella titled Eris, which I wrote in collaboration with the band Illyria to turn their concept album into a full-fledged book. But yeah, links to that will be in the description if you are interested in learning more about that project. Needless to say, I love music and I love storytelling, and I'm very excited for today's concept album, which came as a request. So today I'll be covering Gloryhammer's 2013 album, Tales from the Kingdom of Fife. So today's request for this album comes from Pedro. Pedro, thank you so much for requesting this album. And yeah, I had a lot of fun listening to this band for the first time and really diving into their fun and absurd story. This band is definitely right up my alley, and I just looking at their homepage for their website kind of just tells you everything you need to know about them. Intergalactic space metal, yes, please. Anyway, thank you so much, Pedro, for this suggestion. And as some of you may know, I have a huge list of concept albums that I plan to cover eventually. But if you want to jump to the top of the list, which is what Pedro did, then you can go down to the link in the description and join my Metalhead community. From there, you'll get bonus content along with access to my suggestion box, all for free. Anyway, let's jump into Gloryhammer's Tales from the Kingdom of Fife, which of course takes place in this wonderful fantasy world in, you guessed it, the Kingdom of Fife. So, first off, we have track 1, Anstuther's Dark Prophecy. This is going to be tough for me. There are so many difficult names in this album story. So, yeah, we have Anstuther's Dark Prophecy. So, this is mostly like an introductory track, but at the end we have the words, "The prophecy is written, Dundee will fall," and this is foretold by the dark wizard Anstuther. Anstuther. Then we get to track 2, A Unicorn Invasion of Dundee, which is just, if you think that title is cool, then it gets even better. So we are introduced to the main villain of the story. He is an evil sorcerer named Zorothrax. I hope I'm saying that right. And he pretty much spells a bunch of happy, frolicking unicorns and turns them into an army of undead, like, unicorn beasts. And so he uses these zombie unicorns to attack the city of Dundee, which, just random side fact, no, Dundee is actually a real city in Scotland, which is where this fantasy world is kind of built around. Anyway, he sets upon the town with his army of undead unicorns, and he just pretty much rains chaos and bloodshed through the town, laying waste to the city with his formidable army and all his magical powers. In the ensuing massacre, the princess is raped and kidnapped by Zorothrax, and the Prince of Fife, Angus McFife, swears to avenge Dundee and destroy Zorothrax for what he has done. Track 3, Angus McFife. So this is our introduction to our protagonist. We are introduced to the noble and brave prince who seeks vengeance for the city of Dundee, and he wants to rescue the princess from Zorothrax's clutches. So, he rides past the ruin of Dundee, and he makes plans to set out for the frozen castle, which is where Zorothrax holds his beloved princess. Anyway, along the way, he has this dream where he has this vision of these magical artifacts that will make him undefeatable in battle. So that takes us to track 4, Quest for the Hammer of Glory. So Prince Angus knows that the sorcerer has really, immense power that the prince has pretty much no hope of defeating unless he is armed with these magical weapons that he dreamt about. So basically, if you need a comparison here, he basically needs the Deathly Hallows in order to defeat the Dark Sorcerer. So first, he needs something with enough power to defeat the sorcerer when he faces him in a one-on-one fight. And so he needs a magical weapon, and that weapon is the Hammer of Glory. It is an ancient weapon that will help him destroy Zorothrax. So he seeks out the weapon, finding through snow and ice, and he meets obstacles along his path. He is set upon by goblins and trolls, and he has to defeat them as the weather grows colder and more brutal, and he journeys on. But eventually he comes out on top, and he finds the hammer. So we have part 1 of our Deathly Hallows accomplished. Next up, we have track 5, Magic Dragon. So Prince Angus, of course, now has hammer in hand, but that is not enough. He also must find a way to get past the defenses of the frozen castle in order to get to Zorothrax in the first place. So he seeks out this magic dragon that will help him break through the castle's fortifications. So he travels through the forest of Strathside, Don't know if I'm saying that right. But it is here that he meets a village of wizards. And so these wizards see the prince's quest as honorable and true, and so they decide to help him by giving him this ancient scroll and by divining through, one of their crystal balls, how he can win the loyalty of the magic dragon. So, they tell him that first he must enter an enchanted chamber of mirror and fire, and from there he must endure the dragon's test in order to be deemed worthy. So, Prince McFife goes through the gauntlet and is set upon by a demon, which he ends up defeating. He then meets the dragon and they lock each other in battle. And then the prince, while he's battling the dragon, he pulls out the ancient scroll that the wizards gave him and he utters the spell. And then the dragon is put under his spell and bound to him in loyalty for all time. So now our prince has a magical hammer and a fucking dragon. So no sweeping fantasy tales complete without possessing a dragon, in my opinion. We then move on to track number 6, Tears of the Frozen Princess. So here we kind of take a little break from the quest for these magical artifacts, and this is where Prince Angus just has a kind of a sad moment where he's just longing for Princess Iona McDougal, who is imprisoned in the dungeon in the Frozen Castle. And so he is on this extremely dangerous and extremely difficult journey, but thoughts of his beloved are what motivate him to keep going. And so he promises to set her free as memories of her kind of push him on through this arduous quest. Track 7, Amulet of Justice. So now we jump back into our search for the last and final magical artifact that he wants to arm himself with before he goes to the Frozen Castle. So Prince Angus saddles up his dragon and he takes to the skies in search of the final implement to help him defeat Zargothrax. So he knows the sorcerer will definitely have all these spells and curses in place, and so the prince will definitely need a way to break free from the sorcerer's dark magic. And so he needs this magical amulet. So he discovers that at the bottom of Loch Rannoch is this ancient artifact that he seeks. But the question is, how is he supposed to get it? It's the very bottom of this lake, and no man can swim down that far. And of course, there's many before him that have tried, and they have all failed. But did any of those people that tried before him have a dragon? No! So he commands his dragon to dive down deep below the surface, and so they go down they go until they finally reach the bottom, and Prince Angus is finally able to retrieve the amulet. Track 8, Hail to the Crail. So now armed with all 3 of his magical implements, Prince Angus travels to the farthest reaches of the Kingdom of Fife, and he travels to a town called Crail. And it is here that these fabled warriors live and train, and so these famous knights are the greatest warriors in all the kingdom. They are known throughout the land as being completely undefeatable in battle. And so the prince seeks their favor and asks if they will join him in bringing down the evil sorcerer, Zargothrax. Oh, shit. So this takes us to track 9, Beneath Crodenbeath. And so this is just an instrumental track, but this is where Prince Angus is successful in recruiting the Knights of Crail. So he leads the army toward the Frozen Castle through the tunnels beneath Crodenbeath. And now we get to track 10, The Epic Rage of Furious Thunder, which is where we have the whole climax of the story come together. So Prince Angus arrives at Zargothrax's fortress, and he mounts his attack. So the Knights of Crail get on their giant eagles that they ride into battle, and they rally their ground troops. Prince Angus leads them into battle on his majestic dragon, and amulet around his neck, hammer in hand, he thunders on towards the fortress, and they end up picking up one more hero as they travel toward the Frozen Castle, and that is the barbarian warrior Unst. Not sure exactly how he comes into play in this story, but I think his storyline might be picked up in one of the other records down the line. But anyway, they pick up this random barbarian warrior that hopefully, I like to imagine, helps them turn the tide of battle. Anyway, so they finally get to the Frozen Castle, and Prince Angus decides that he's going to enter through the secret tunnels of the dwarves. Meanwhile, the Knights of Crail will engage the undead unicorns in the fields of Dunfermline. In the fields of Dunfermline. So inside the tunnels, the prince is led by this hermit named Ralathor, who leads him to Zargothrax. So the prince and the sorcerer face off against each other, and they fall into a vicious battle. The sorcerer is super powerful, of course, but Prince Angus is armed with the Hammer of Glory, and it is a very close fight, but eventually the prince gains the upper hand and throws Zargothrax into this pool of liquid ice, which then encases the sorcerer's body and holds him locked there forevermore. So, with the sorcerer's influence now removed, Prince Angus is then able to use the amulet to break the spell over the unicorns and over the princess and restore peace and order to Dundee. So, So here we have it. The prince is successful in his quest, and order is restored to the kingdom. But that's not quite the end of the story. We have one more track, track 11, Wizards! This probably is like my favorite track on the album. But yeah, we have this, you know, kind of fairy tale ending that we had in the last track, but here we have a little epilogue that kind of turns things in another direction. So after the fairy tale happily ever after, we then jump to a different part of the kingdom where we have the wizards of Carngorm Mountains, where they battle endlessly against the demons. And so for centuries they have fought these demon hordes. But what is this? Another prophecy. So the wizards, much like the ones who helped Prince Angus in the forest of Strathside, they look into their crystal ball and they see a dark future of an epic battle of galactic scale. And that is kind of just where they leave us, kind of wondering about what is going to happen next. And of course, the storyline is then picked up in the other installments by the band's discography. So yeah, there we have it. We have this wonderful, ridiculous, fun little fantasy story by a band that definitely doesn't take themselves too seriously, which I find very refreshing. So yeah, if you like power metal and you're just into some fun, goofy, uplifting music about, you know, zombie unicorns and wizards and magic dragons and stuff, go check this album out. Thank you again, Pedro, so much for suggesting this this band, and I look forward to covering the rest of their albums. If you want me to, you know, cover more of those albums sooner, drop that down in the comments. Let me know you are excited about the next installments of Gloryhammer, and also let me know what you think of this concept. I'm always interested to know what you guys think. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to join my Metalhead community and suggest other videos that you want me to do in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching. Till next time.